Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Note to Self. For today's episode, we'll be covering over the topic of love languages, and we have a special guest with us. But before our guest introduces themselves, again, Jonathan, English and Chicano Studies major.
I'm Ani. I'm a sociology major.
I'm Jacqueline. I'm a business major here at Aloni.
My name is Kiana, and I'm also a sociology major.
Special guest.
Thanks, Jonathan. My name is Erin Osana Barba. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I work here at Aloni in the Student Health Center. I work here part-time as a mental health counselor. I also supervise our interns and then work with our amazing ambassadors. So this is my second year supervising the ambassadors and really working with them on all of the work that they do. In addition to Aloni, I also work at San Jose State. I teach at San Jose State in their graduate school for social work, and then I also have a private practice. So my real passion is working with people who've experienced various traumas, particularly interpersonal violence. I've been working in that field, I'm going to date myself here, but since 1996 when I graduated undergrad, and it's really a passion of mine, and the topic here tonight and why I'm here is just really exciting, something I like to talk about. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you for being here. Honestly, much love to Erin. Guys,
Thank you.
All right. Now, going in for a quick check-in, what was something everyone did over the spring break that they really enjoyed? Big or small, doesn't really matter.
I'll go first. So, with my sister coming back, from SoCal, she goes to school there. We went to San Francisco, and then we just had, a whole sibling day, with my brother and sister. And I was also able to do, a photography project, and we started, film photography, which was really exciting. And, yeah.
How'd the project go?
It went well, but the first roll I had, it got exposed after I processed it, so I was frustrated. But then I was able to do another roll and process it, and then now we're starting to do enlarged prints.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, my rolls got exposed. I did photography back in high school, and that happened. My professor just it's fine. I know you probably would have done great, and he just let me pass. I'm like, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Over break, I hung out a lot with the different groups that I'm in. So I had an outing in SF, and that was really fun. And I also really enjoyed the day I spent at the Santa Cruz Boardwalk, and as well as the time that I got to spend with the ambassadors, where we did a pottery day where we were painting mugs and plates, and I really enjoyed spending time with them, and I really liked the finished product. And I've been very happily eating off of it this week.
Spring break. So, as you heard earlier, I do several things, so I didn't really have a full spring break. But I will say I squeezed in lunch with a friend when I would normally be here, and I visited with some family, hung out with some other friends and my husband, and then just really excited because I'm planning a big trip. My husband and I are going to Argentina and Brazil at the end of May. So we've never been to South America, but super excited to go. So that's always... that's a passion of mine to plan trips whenever I can.
Argentina's beautiful. I had an uncle who went over there.
Oh,
So
good to know.
So good.
We'll be there for a week, so staying at Buenos Aires. But
That's
Yeah.
literally when he went to Buenos Aires, and it was he's every time he brings it up, he's like, oh my gosh, I gotta show you the photos. Show me the photos. Same photos 20 billion times. But I mean, it looks cool. It looks nice.
it looks beautiful. Yeah, the people seem amazing. So yeah.
Mine was just sleeping.
Hello.
Yeah.
Isn't that important though? Does it feel good to rest?
Yes.
Busy. I didn't have that much of a break, but I did go hiking to Garin and Coyote Hills. That was pretty good. Gosh, I never realized how out of shape I was. We went up to the little peak for Coyote Hills. I can't do this. I can't do this anymore. We're gonna go downhill, right? No, we're gonna go up another hill. I'm like, oh my gosh, yay! But I mean, I got a nice juicy pump after that. But I was so freaking hungry. But it was good. It was really good. We got breakfast afterwards, which I was not complaining. Mainly because my face was full of pancakes.
That's great.
Well, we hope you, viewer, had an amazing spring break, and even if you did it, hopefully you have a great summer, or at least make some time for yourself. But going into our topic for love languages now, looking at our script, It says right here that according to the five love languages, there are many ways to like receive and express love. This was by Simply Psychology. They say that love languages refers to the different ways individuals prefer to express and receive love. Who wants to go off? Name what the 5 ones are off the top of their head.
Well, words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, gift giving, and then I'm blanking on the last one.
Acts of service.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, so those are the 5 love languages. Again, words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, physical touch. A lot of them do encompass like things that we would see in our lives, whether that's culturally or even like interpersonally in work, like words of affirmation. That's, you know, the verbal appreciation of someone. That can be compliments or encouragement, like you're doing a great job. We're all doing great jobs, guys. Quality time, you know, giving undivided attention, engaging in meaningful conversations, participating in activities together. The team bonding, that was really fun. Receiving gifts, again, just emphasizing the thought, like thoughtful, meaningful, like gift. I mean, like receiving like something that symbolizes appreciation or affection. I know for me, my mom, the day after the hike, I was just like feeling super burnt out, and my mom just left me like a whole lunch pail just full of stuff because she was like, I know you're gonna be pretty busy. Let me just get you something out of the way, and that was like super sweet from her. Acts of service. This is a love language that involves performing tasks that are helpful and ease partners' burdens. Not even partners, just like friends. I know I've gone like a lot of days where, you know, some of my friends like, I can't get groceries today. I can't go out and like, can you give me a ride? I'm like, yeah, sure, I got you, anytime. And then physical touch. Like, again, this centers on physical gestures like hugging, kissing, holding hands. Ew, lovey-dovey stuff. Kidding. I can get jealous. But yeah, like just physical affection, you know, even just high fives right on you. Yeah. Fist bumps.
Yeah.
I don't know any other things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just all high fives and fist bumps. But yeah, those are a lot of like, you know, just little examples of the languages. And just curious, what's everyone's love languages, if you know yours?
I'd say I have 2.
Mhm.
It's like acts of service and quality time for sure. Yeah, I think I blanked on that thought. Yeah, but I think mainly it is quality time though.
I think I do all of them except physical touch. I'm not super like touch oriented, I guess, like, because I know that not everyone's like into like hugs or like people kind of like their personal space nowadays with like the whole like COVID and like all that. So like I haven't really done that much, but like yeah, I do enjoy hugs, I guess. But I think generally for myself, I think I do acts of service and I try to give. Usually it's handmade because sometimes I can't afford like a really expensive gift, so I make it myself. I feel like I do a lot of like words of affirmation and just like try to spread positivity because that's something that I can do, and it's something that isn't really difficult or as difficult as some of the other things, because I feel like just like brightening someone's day by saying something positive or like complimenting them is something like really easy that I can do for someone to make their day better. And for like quality time, I try to set some time aside for like the people I care about.
So mine, I'm thinking of it more of like I think with my husband, what is most important to me, what speaks to me, and it is quality time. He's amazing at acts of service. Like that's his, and he cooks the most. Like between the two of us, he helps me with the housework. Like he is amazing at acts of service, which I totally appreciate. But the quality time is probably mine because that just really speaks to me. And then probably giving. Mine is probably affirmation. I probably do that more than anything, just knowing that I'm a therapist, and that's probably what I do mostly. But I have a tendency, and do you mind if I touch you, Jacqueline? So I have a tendency to do this kind of thing, like, and I do that with my friends. I do that with people. Like it's just like a got you kind of and I notice I do that a lot. But I usually ask and or can I give you a hug? You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think those are probably mine. Yeah.
Mine is like gift giving and acts of service. I noticed like when I did this like what was it, junior year when I met my two best friends that were like my current best friends. Like literally like the first thing I like gave them in the first week of us meeting is like friendship bracelets. I just love giving people gifts because it's like and like when I give it to them, I'll be like, open it, open it. When I like thought about you and I was like, I wanted to buy it for you. And in acts of service, like I just love helping people, like whether that's giving them a ride or helping them with like homework or just literally just anything. Like literally like my best friend called me last night asking me how do I download a PDF, and I was like okay, this is how you do that. So I just love helping. And then especially like since I'm kind of like on the track to be like a career counselor, like I kind of just want to like learn how to like help and like know how to help people like their needs, and then like know like the type of resources like to give someone if they really are in need of something.
I would say for me, it definitely varies from person to person and my relationship with them for sure. But I'll focus on platonic relationships for this one. And for those who don't know what platonic relationships are, those are typically the relationship between friends, co-workers, you know, still intimate, but not romantically intimate, you know. At least I know with my friends, I'm definitely a big acts of service and quality time person. I know I always invite them over to my house. We'll just kick it back, watch a movie. It's always like one of those really bad movies. There's like terrible acting. We really like the ones with weird CGI for some reason. We're like, just like point at it. But also acts of service because at least I know for me, I love to cook. I love to bake, and I will bring. If it wasn't for a lot of like different rules and like safety hazards and stuff, I would definitely be cooking like 24/7 and bringing stuff over to work and all these things. But they're like, we can't accept stuff because of college regulation. Like, okay, I know my kitchen's cleaner than yours, but but yeah, for sure, I love cooking. Do not ask me to clean. That's the one I will have to work on a little bit.
Eventually, you'll have a partner who'll be the cleanup crew behind you.
No, but then I'll feel bad and I'll be like, all right, let me do it for you. I don't know. Maybe part of this, I'm like, as a man, I'll be like, girl, do not clean.
I have never heard that before.
Doing better. We got to do better. But yeah, well, thank you all for sharing. And I'm glad that, you know, we brought up like the ones that we acknowledge, whether it's like within platonic or even romantic relationships. Because again, love languages can look different. And one thing that I'm glad you brought up, Jacqueline, kind of goes into it. Boundaries. Boundaries play a really big role in it. Again, love can look differently or manifest differently for everybody, you know, depending on your gender, your sexual identity, even your cultural identities play a big role in those things. And it can affect us both positively and negatively. Some examples are explained in the article, 15 Effects of Love on Your Brain and Body. If someone would like to read the following thing.
So it can affect us emotionally in the sense where love triggers the release of dopamine and oxytocin, allowing us to like feel joy, excitement, and deep connection. Also physically, physiologically, love can make people idealize their partners, sometimes overlooking their flaws. Healthy love can make people feel valued and confident. In some cases, especially in the early stages or in the case of unhealthy relationships, love can lead to overthinking, jealousy, or obsession as well.
Follow-up question. How has love affected you either positively or negatively? And can be romantic, platonic, friends, or family.
I know for me, one of the things is like physically, I have a little bit of a tough time with like physical love, just because like that's such a secure attachment with someone, and even then like I know reading off the thing right here, like physical love, it can reduce cortisol, which is a stress hormone. It can lead to like better overall health. I know that people in like loving relationships, they have like lower blood pressures, like when they're hugging or they're engaging in that physical intimacy. But maybe just because in the environment I grew up in, physical love was kind of like a little rare, especially between like fathers or like just the male figures in my life. So I know whenever like a male figure would give me a hug or be like rub like my head or whatever and be like, oh, this is kind of strange, I don't like it. And I would feel more secure like hugging my aunts or my mom or my grandma, just because like that was the affection that they would most commonly give me. And even with like words of affirmations, that was a little tricky. I know like from certain people I'd feel like, yay, and the other people like, oh, why are you doing this? You know, it would kind of trigger like a little weird gut response with me.
Going based off what Jonathan said, like I also grew up in like a household where we weren't really like physically like in tune with each other. Like I didn't grow up like with physical touch, like no hugging or nothing. So like when I recently like got into my first relationship back in December, I had to kind of learn how to accept physical touch because like I just did not like doing all that lovey-dovey stuff. So I guess that has impacted me positively because I'm learning how to be in tune with like learning how to accept physical love and hugs and stuff.
I had very like similar like experiences growing up, like in my household too. Like the way my parents showed love to, like was like acts of service, I guess, and it wasn't really like words of affirmation or physical affection as well. And I think for me, like my exposure to like affection or physical affection was like through my best friend. Like I'm still like working on it too. Like we were like I've known this girl for like 6 years and we've barely given each other hugs. But like I now am becoming like more accepting of it, and especially like with my other friends. But I guess that's my positive, but like negatively, like I don't want to say negatively, but like being exposed to that is just like teaching me like it's okay to like accept like this affection from like these people who care about me. Yeah.
Okay, so apparently everybody else isn't really like getting that like physical affection thing with their parents, and I do, but at the same time I know that my brother is like in the same boat as you guys where like they don't really, I guess my parents know that I'm okay with it, so they give me a lot of hugs. Okay, like, yeah, maybe not the kisses part, but, like, we definitely do give each other hugs occasionally, but, like a lot of you guys said, like, the acts of service is definitely something that I, like, both my parents and I share, so we, having that in my life is always, like, something that, makes a lot of things, like, stressful situations a lot better. I'd say that love has also affected me positively on the behavioral side, because I guess, I think growing up, to be a better sister to for my brother, I've been learning to just like spend more quality time with him, do more things with him, like learn new things together with him, and that has been like something that has affected me more positively because like the sense of responsibility and just like trying to be there more for him because he's a really good little brother. Like he will like make food for me, help me with chores, like all sorts of stuff, and he's always like I guess always there for me and able to help in just about any situation, and he's the younger brother, so I've been trying to step up to be a better like bigger sister for him, and I think that has like helped me grow as a person in many ways, so I think love can also help us behaviorally in that sense as well.
You know, I kind of want to piggyback. Kiona brought it up a little bit with like acts of services and like with friendships, and you reminded me of something, at least within my friend groups as well. Because I was surrounded majority men, like for a lot of my friend groups for a long time. So we definitely had a lot of stigma in terms of like physical love and how that manifested for us. Usually it was just like high fives, fist bumps, shoulder hugs, never like really any like bear hugs or whatever. And it took a long time for us to like kind of work through that. Even with my closest friends, like I would say we've known each other since elementary school to like junior, senior year of high school, like post-COVID. That's when we were like, yeah, we're gonna start like giving each other hugs and all these things. Or even like simple things like, oh yeah, I love you, man. I'd be like, ew, why are you saying that to another guy? Like, there's a lot of stigma even surrounded to that in terms of like, what does masculinity look like? What does even healthy relationships between your like guy friends look like? Because I know with like my girlfriends, like, oh hey girl, and I'll just be like going in there giving them hugs, and be like, stop, you know. And then a lot of people would be like, why don't you act like that with your guy friends? And be like, well, most of them don't want to. They don't really reciprocate that kind of love, you know.
Yeah. I could say so much. I mean, like this question's so open to me. I'd be going way back if I went like with my childhood and stuff. I will just simply say like my parents showed affection to us, but didn't, other than when I was really little, didn't verbalize like with the I love yous. So there wasn't any verbal of that. So it was very interesting because there was definitely physical affection, but not like that telling me. So as I got older, I always knew that they loved me, but I just didn't hear it. So that certainly factored into the way I received love, you know, when I started dating and all of that. So fast forward, I think that a lot of my work on myself, which created a self-love and a self-awareness, is what got me to receive love in the way that I do from my husband, which has been incredibly positive. I couldn't have achieved, in my opinion, what I have done in my life, my adult life, going back to grad school when I did and everything, if I didn't have him as a partner. And I truly believe that. But I also wouldn't have had him as a partner if I didn't do the work on myself to be able to receive love in that way. So I think that also will go into, and I'll talk about it later with some of the questions about boundaries and healthy relationships when we talk about that. Yeah.
Gosh, I hope I have a relationship like yours, Erin. Like, you know, partner like that too. And I know, maybe I misheard it, but I know love bombing was brought up. Would anyone like to define what love bombing is? Sorry, cotton mouth. It's so humid in here.
It is, yeah.
It is. But love bombing is a type of psychological and emotional abuse where someone attempts to manipulate you into a relationship, and this can be through excessive praise, over communication of feelings, giving unwanted gifts, or intense talks about a future together. And some examples are like saying excessive compliments like you're my soulmate, or I've never felt this way before, within like days or weeks of like knowing them, or constantly showering praise, making you feel like you're perfect, and then like I guess putting you on a pedestal, giving an excessive amount of gifts, buying expensive gifts when it's unnecessary or inappropriate, or like planning like these big trips or surprising you when you just started dating, constant communication and need for attention, like texting or calling excessively, or getting upset when you're not responding, and even making you feel guilty for not giving them like attention. But with that, I have a question. Has there been a time where you felt like you were being love bombed, or were you the one love bombing? If so, how did you recognize it, and what did you do about it?
Gosh, the first thing that came into my mind, trauma alert, was my dad. So context, I think I brought it up a couple of times before and in other episodes, but my dad was deported for about 3.5 years. And I was like around 7, 8 at that time. So those were like very critical moments in like me transitioning from like elementary school into like my early teens. So when he came back, he was a little bit, you know, out of touch, to say the least, with the way like I've grown as an individual, like my interactions as well. So, and especially us being low income, as soon as he got straight to work, a lot of it was just like gifts. And at first I thought it was cool, right? You know, just making up for lost time. But then I noticed there'd be kind of like behavioral tendencies where a lot of this gift giving would come usually after whenever we would do some handyman stuff on the side or like some stuff around the house. And whenever he would like verbally or like physically like just be really rough with me or even abuse me at some points, again, I would see like, oh, I'm sorry, like, I love you still, mijo, like, you still mean a lot to me. And then next, he buys pizza that following night, or he goes on, he's like, let's go buy you some clothes, let's go buy you a toy. And it did get to me for a while. It's like, he's just trying his best, he's making up for it, right? But then it got to a point where, after he drew some blood from me, I was like, no, this is not okay. A toy's not gonna make this up. And especially when he called me useless, I was like, no, this is not even more okay. That is not gonna help anything. Like, especially when his actions and his words do not meet up with a lot of the things he would state. That's where I was like, I'm establishing my boundaries. You're love bombing a lot, and so, yeah, that's like an example of love bombing in my life.
Yeah. Any others?
Ooh, so who's doing the love bombing? Ooh.
I can share that. Like, I can say, obviously, before I got married, I dated and I did all of that. And there was a time in my life that I was very insecure. And obviously, when I was dating, there wasn't cell phones, there wasn't all of that. But with that insecurity brought, like, oh, I need to know what they're doing. And so I wouldn't say I did all of that love bombing, but there were things that I did that I was overly jealous, overly possessive. Like, oh, that girl looked at you, because it was insecurities. It was reflective of me and my own insecurities. And so I think that's something also to understand. If you understand how you're reacting in a relationship, understand where it's coming from. And then that usually is a sign of unhealthy relationship dynamics. And so getting the help that you need, or if that other person is doing it to you, it's not your role to change them. They need to get the help so that they can be a better partner for you. But definitely recognize that I did some of that, especially when I was younger and insecure and had very low self-esteem.
I think, at least for myself, I don't think I've ever gotten to a point of love bombing, but like I haven't been in a relationship, guys. But so in like the sense of like my friendships, I guess I would say that certain things, like, I guess because, well, I'm low income, right? And up until, I guess, when I hit like college, I started working, so I actually have like financially, I have spending money to use now. So, but like prior to that in high school, I felt uncomfortable when my friends would like offer to like buy me, like, say, offer to buy me a snack or food, because I wouldn't ever be able to be able to reciprocate that. So that made me uncomfortable, I guess. But it's not like it was anything extravagant or grand gestures, but that was like something that made me feel insecure, because I knew that like I wasn't, I guess, in the same position as them, or like as equal as them in that sense. Also just, I guess, maybe I'd be more overzealous in some ways, because I guess I'm more of like an in-person person. So like when we do things together, I am just like, I guess, really energetic, or like, because I'm really happy that they would like take out time to spend with me, because I guess most other people would have like a bigger group of friends, or like a bunch of close friends. So like when I got time to spend with them, that would make me really happy. But like for like when I knew that they were busy and stuff, I was able to understand that it's because they have other relationships. So I guess I never really got to the point where like I would ever love bomb someone, or like constantly try to get their attention, because I know that like their attention is shared between like the things that matter to them. So I never really crossed that line. But definitely when I reflected on certain behaviors, it could get close, I guess, during some times when I was like at low points. But like I usually can reflect on it as in I felt insecure, and it's not because like my friends were not the problem, it was me being the problem. But I in general would try to like kind of try not to let that affect others, because I didn't want to be like a burden to them in that sense. And I've been like working it out with my relationships nowadays to try to strike a better balance, because like now I'm more like content like with myself, and understanding that like when I'm alone, that doesn't mean I'm lonely, and actually being alone is quite nice. And you won't actually get much time for that anymore when you start like working, and also just like alone time is kind of a luxury. But like back when I was younger, it was like a different. I thought being alone was like something that I didn't enjoy as much, at least.
I don't have that much like romantic experience, but like with growing up, my dad is second generation, so he had like a lot of pressure on him. I'm giving context, but like he had a lot of like expectations placed on him, and he placed that like on my siblings and I, and like he would lash out because like he like wasn't happy with like what we were doing, but we were still trying our best to like meet up to those standards that he placed on us. And I experienced a lot of verbal abuse from him, and to counteract that, he would buy like gifts for us and like kind of say like, I'll change and like I'll do better. And like for me, like I'm the youngest, so I was very sheltered from my siblings, and I didn't realize that behavior until later on. But I didn't see it because one, I was sheltered because of my siblings, and also like I was just like I was getting stuff I wanted, and he was like treating me out to like dinners and everything like that. But I understand like where he was coming from the stress, but also that doesn't excuse his behavior because he was the adult. But no, like he has the help he needs, so I'm thankful he is able to like work on his washouts. Thank you. But yeah, and I'm thankful that I have like that was like when we were like kids, but like now since I'm like becoming an adult and like he's been working on himself, like our relationship has been getting better.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. That's hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think I have any experience with love bombing that I can think of.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
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 So, I know one of the big things that were brought up was boundaries. And again, just as a definition, I know we defined it in one of our earlier episodes, I believe. I'm blanking out. But again, boundaries is the personal limits that we, the individual, set up to protect our emotional, our mental, and more importantly, our physical health. An example of boundaries can be like for physical health, your own personal space. Like, please. I know that like someone brought up COVID, 6 feet away. Wear a mask, something like that, or even physical touch. Like, no, I don't like you when you touch my shoulder. Not a fan of high fives. Things like that. That's an example of a boundary. Emotional boundaries, like your feelings, your emotional space. Just being like, don't talk about this thing because it'll trigger this emotion for me, or being like, hey, I don't like when you say those things because it makes me pretty sad, pretty pissed off. Our mental, this can be our beliefs, our opinions, our thoughts. Don't bring up this topic. This brings up like a lot of trauma, or even then just like you just personally staying away from them, or not, not necessarily running away, but not being your favorite topic to talk about. And then time, because that's also a boundary that a lot of people tend to forget exists. Your time management, your commitments, your availability. I know I have a tendency to commit to a lot, and next thing you know, I'm spread hella thin, and then someone's like, hey, do you have time for this? I'll be like, no, next week, and then the next week, or then whenever we're available.
Before we get into the questions, can I add a little bit to that too? So one thing they probably know about me, but you all may find from my talking, is boundaries is one of my favorite topics. Because boundaries takes a level of self-awareness. It also takes an ability to be assertive, and both of those things are very healthy for a relationship, any kind of relationship. One thing I wanted to also say about boundaries is that those are what Jonathan was just talking about, are different types of boundaries, and then boundaries usually come in 3 different categories. And so healthy is kind of where we want to be, right? Healthy boundaries is right in the middle. And then on either side of healthy is porous or rigid. So a porous boundary is, imagine a sponge, and when you put a sponge like under the faucet and it gets wet, it soaks up everything. So somebody with porous boundaries, they're the yes people. They're the ones who, and I'm talking to the detriment of themselves, they do too much. They always say yes to others, or they say yes to others that don't deserve that from them because they don't reciprocate it. So it can be very unhealthy. And so it's just somebody taking on too much. So if you're weighted down, what does that feel like? So that's somebody who has very porous boundaries. And then rigid on the other side is the one who's like, nope. And it's very categorical. It's very like, nope. And it's almost like they don't let people get close enough. And it's just like almost, yeah, they just don't let people in, or they don't do things for others. And so that's like a rigid boundary. Now you can have rigid, you can have porous, or you can have healthy with different things in your life, different people, different situations. So just because you're one in one situation doesn't mean that you're that for everything. So for instance, you could be like have really porous boundaries at work, like say yes to everything because you're trying to impress your boss and whatever. And then really have healthy boundaries, say, in your relationships. So it could look differently in different things. So I just wanted to kind of explain that as well.
No, thank you though, Erin.
Yeah.
I know, even though those things, those definitions don't even get talked a lot. Those are even things that we even like recognize. I know for me, when I was trying to like, at least on my own time, learn what boundaries are, like trying to define them, I still had a hard time. Especially within Latino culture, acts of service is a really big thing for us. Just doing things for people even without them asking. And so for me, it's just like trying to be mindful. It's like, hey, if they don't want this thing, why am I going to give it to them? I don't want to overstep their own personal values as well. And it's definitely a learning process.
Yeah.
For sure.
It always is.
It is a learning process.
Yeah.
Anyone else would like to add any comments?
I think, at least for myself, I definitely am closer to, like, I guess, porous boundary, at least for my own time, and I know that, because I think growing up, I didn't value my time as much, so it's been, like, or at least I thought, like, the only thing I had to give was my time, so I would have a tendency to agree to a lot of things, and at my own detriment. And I can say that my grades might have tanked a little. I would like make time at the expense of work, so I wouldn't get like, I guess, payment, or like I would take time away from work to do other things that I agreed to. But definitely I've been trying to be like move towards healthier boundaries, because I know that I'm like starting to understand a lot more about like my limits, especially for like time, because like there's certain weeks I think after I get where I do get burnt out just because I probably overcommitted the week before, but like during the week I was feeling okay, and then the next week I'm like, well, now I understand that I probably did too much the previous week because now I don't feel that great. So that is definitely something I've been working on. I feel like I'm usually okay with physical and emotional and I guess mental boundaries. At least for myself, I know like when I can or cannot handle like approaching a certain topic, and although I may not draw that line with the person I'm interacting with, I won't touch the topic until I'm mentally ready for, like, I'll shelve it and like I'll put it in a notebook, or like I'll leave a note for it and I'll revisit the topic when I am mentally ready or prepared for it, just because I know that if I do touch the topic, I am going to spend a couple hours stuck on that topic. So like for like, so that I still have like time to say like do my homework or like work, I like set aside I guess you could say like the topic, so that I can revisit it when I am ready or like capable of like discussing it, or like mentally discussing it with myself.
Any other thoughts before we move on to the questions? No. All right, gotcha. So, question for Erin. Would anyone else like to ask one before I pick my favorite? I'm like, ooh, these are so good.
I think you can go first.
I can go first. How do I protect my emotional being while dealing with toxic people?
With boundaries. I mean, it all comes back to that. So there's always going to be toxic people. There just will be. So it's first and foremost recognizing what is toxic to you, because we may all kind of define that a little bit differently. And then protecting yourself through boundaries. So saying no, choosing not to spend time with them. Now, I will say that I also recognize that there are sometimes spaces where we don't have a choice, such as a boss, a family member. I'm specifically speaking if you're living at home and you have to follow family member, parents' rules or your guardian's rules, things like that. If it's other family members, I know culturally some folks may not feel that they have choice, and I would always say that to try and find a way to voice if you don't want to be around a person or to not spend time with that person, but it's really through those boundaries, the saying no's, the letting somebody know you're uncomfortable, or just choosing not to spend time with them by protecting yourself from the toxic people in that way. Yeah.
I guess I can go next, but question for Erin.
Yeah.
How would I go about like enforcing boundaries when I guess the people around me like keep pushing against them?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that I'm the type of person who will tend to cave in those situations.
That's a great question. So I deal with this a lot in therapy with folks, because once they even get to the point of recognizing what they need, and then like recognizing, oh, maybe I have a porous boundary and I need to make this healthy for myself, to even speak to that other person and assert themselves is really hard, right? Well, that other person also probably knows you and knows, I'm just going to use you for example, because you said that that you tend to be the one to cave. Well, that person knows that. And so they know, well, if I keep pushing, she'll cave, right? Because that's how they know you to be. And so it does take so much work to continuously say no. And my guess is that most people, when they first try it, they will have to keep trying it and will probably give in, but eventually get to the point that it's just like, kind of like you were describing with your dad. It's like, no, you get to a point like, I'm not going to do this anymore. But it does take practice, particularly it gets more and more awkward when they push. But that's what they're expecting you to do, is to cave. And so just knowing that, knowing, no, it's up to me, because that other person, I can't expect them to not push, because that's what they've proven to me. So it's up to me. So just kind of owning that and then working on asserting that. Yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Then what would you do in the case where like it's not like an external thing, but it's an internal thing with like yourself, like a personal boundary with yourself?
Meaning like I'm not capable of, or can you give me an example? Because I don't want to assume.
Like I guess, like if you set aside like personal time boundaries for yourself, like if you set aside like a time boundary for your like personal time for yourself, how would you go about making sure that you maintain that with yourself, because no one else would enforce it? Because you could very possibly just like slash it and like give it up to something else, but that's like a personal choice that you make.
Yeah, so that's more accountability, so personal accountability. And if you're finding it difficult to follow through on something, who's a friend? Who else can help you be accountable? Okay. Somebody that you can ask, putting it into your calendar, setting it on your phone. People plan it into their time, but if you're noticing you're doing that and you're still not doing it, then I would ask for like somebody else to help you to be accountable, just until you get used to it, into the routine of it. Yeah.
I guess for me, the question I had wasn't on this. Like, this is for like platonic, like friendship. Like, when is it like appropriate to like end a friendship that like repeatedly ignores your boundaries?
That is a great question and a difficult one to answer. Simply, I'm going to simplify it and then I'll get more kind of detailed. What you just said is, I think in the question, if I heard it right, was how do you know when to end a friendship with somebody who continuously ignores your boundaries? Yeah. The fact that they continuously ignore your boundaries is why you end the friendship. Nothing more is needed.
I guess.
I mean, that's simplifying it, right? But if they prove to you time and time again, and you've articulated to them, like, I don't appreciate this, or I need you to do this, or whatever it is, you're not just leaving it to them to guess what you need. So if the boundary's been shared, like this is what I need, it's hard to assume what you're talking about, but it's been expressed to them, like they should know at this point, you've pushed back, you've asked for something different, you know, whatever it is, and they're crossing that line over and over again, and you've said it, then it's really up to you to remove yourself. And that's gonna be different for everybody, depending on every relationship, because it's not easy to do. It's just at some point, when you choose to who to surround yourself with, do you want to have that person who continuously disrespects you in that way? And I get it, it's easier as you get older. I 100% do, because when I was sitting in your shoes, not something I could do very well. Yeah.
I guess I had like a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Like, how do you like, I guess like, establish like the boundary and like how you're feeling, like without feeling like guilty, I guess. Like, how do you like better navigate that guilt, I guess?
Another great question. So I would also say it's okay to feel. Guilt is an uncomfortable feeling. We don't like to feel guilty. So ask yourself, why am I feeling guilty? Is it because I don't think enough of myself and I'm putting them too much in front of myself? That might help you. Like if you remind yourself, like, oh, well, wait a minute, I'm giving them more than I'm giving myself. Maybe I shouldn't feel guilty about this. If it is just something you need, we all need something. And just remind yourself of that. It's not a bad thing to have needs. And so maybe that will lessen the guilt a little bit. So I think it's understanding why you're feeling guilty and kind of working that through yourself or talking with a trusted person or a therapist about it. I think that's super important to do that. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I guess mine would be, how do I make sure I prioritize my own needs before helping others?
That's another good question. These are all good questions. And I'm glad you asked that, because I heard when we were talking about love languages, a lot of you, most of you, I think your love languages had to do with doing something for others. And not saying that's a bad thing. But I think if you have to, it has to be equality in some way, shape, or form. There has to be reciprocation. So if somebody's not being reciprocal and matching you with what you're giving into the relationship, then that could be an unhealthy dynamic, and that could be unhealthy. So if you recognize, oh, I like to give gifts, or I like to do acts of service, that's great, and I'm so glad you recognize it, but is that person deserving of that from you? And then asking yourself, well, how do I decide if they are? Well, what have been their actions? I think like what you were saying, like, have they pushed your boundaries and not respected them? Well, then maybe they're not deserving of that. I think I got off topic. Did that answer your question, or?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, it did. So I think, I mean, those things, those love languages, and most of you answered like what you give. It's really important to understand too what you need. Like I mentioned, mine is quality time. That other things I'd be happy with, don't get me wrong, but if my husband buys me a diamond ring and doesn't want to spend time with me, that's not going to work for me. That's, I can buy myself a ring. I want to spend time with you. I choose you, you know. So I think understanding what you need from a relationship, not just what you give. It's both.
I guess a follow-up for that, how does one like recognize what they need?
That's great, and it takes time. I mean, it takes experience. Okay, actually, I'm thinking romantic relationships, but even with friendships, it takes maybe like your example of being burned. You know, like believe me, I've been burned with friends, I've been burned with dating, you know, partners, whatever. It takes those experiences, and I always say it's okay to. I mean, we're all going to get hurt. It's going to happen to us. If we continuously put ourselves in those same positions to be hurt by the same person or by somebody just like them, then that's on us kind of at some point to understand, why are we doing that? Why are we allowing ourselves to be treated like that? It's important to understand that, and that's how you come back and you start to learn those things. It's through experience and reflection and like asking yourself, what do I need? Not just what does the other person need or want. What do I need? Yeah.
I guess one last question before we end.
Mm-hmm.
How can I recognize my boundaries are being violated before an escalation?
What would be an escalation? Like, is there an example of that?
I guess I'll just use my example,
Yeah.
like, at least with my dad, you know, you know, I went through the verbal abuse, I went through the physical
Yeah.
abuse, and it's in him hitting me and like
Mhm.
making me bleed from my mouth, him
Mhm.
calling me useless, and like
Mhm.
making me like very insecure and like mentally exhausted. Like, how would
Mhm.
I have, I guess, at least for me, been able to recognize like, hey, what's going on? This is really toxic. It's really unhealthy and really unsafe.
Oh, that's such a good question. So my guess would be the physical part you knew wasn't good,
Yeah,
okay? The emotional part was probably harder to figure out.
yeah,
Yes, that's the case. And honestly, I picked up on when you were talking about that story, you also talked about, you like alluded to the fact that the emotional part was harder to get over, or still even maybe working on getting over, because those scars are deeper. Like the physical stuff, we kind of know, okay, we're not supposed to push and shove, we're not supposed to hit. We kind of all, it's a collective social thing to know. But the emotional stuff, it is collective, but it is subjective as well. And then you talk about all the intersectionalities, right? Like our family dynamics, what we're used to, our culture, like all of those things come into play. So it's hard, and with that experience, you do also understand over time, like what you need and what is wrong for you. And that's why I always encourage people to identify for themselves what doesn't feel good. Like, I'm going to keep going back to, because you used such an example, and even your example, doesn't it feel bad? Like you feel something in your gut, it doesn't feel right. Even if you can't define it, it doesn't feel right. And that much you know, well then listen to it. It's okay. But I think so much we get in our head and we second guess it. Like somehow it's me, I'm doing something wrong, especially with friends. Like it's me. Yours was with the parents, it's a little bit different. But if it doesn't feel right, there's something not right. It's not settling with you. Listen to that. You may not be able to define it, but listen to it. Yeah.
gut feelings.
100%. They're there for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
And before we end this episode, we've gone over so many great topics today, but before we end the episode, if you want to explore any of these topics further, we always have 6 free sessions with our amazing counseling team that you can tap into every semester. And each
Erin is one of
semester,
them.
yes, Erin is one of them that you could be able to connect with. And in these sessions, you can explore any of these topics, anything else that you have concerns with, be it like work, personal, any related to relationships, or just about any concerns that you have. And we also have amazing student wellness counselors who have drop-in sessions 4 days a week, 2 hours at a time. And if you check like our socials, you will be able to get the hours.
I think the webpage.
The webpage also has it.
And Kiona and Anya are 2 of them. So.
Yes. So you guys can like drop in and like talk to them about any concerns that you have. And we also have mental health navigators in the case that you do need access to extra sessions or outside resources. And yeah.
If I can just add to it, if I may, there are a lot of resources out there, and even if you don't even know what you want, like if you're even unsure, what do I really need? Just asking the questions, like all of these questions today are super important, and talking to a therapist can sound scary, but oftentimes it's just learning. It's learning about yourself. It's asking these questions. You're all in a time of identifying yourself and figuring things out. We're here for a reason, and utilize the sessions. At the very least, if you're not comfortable talking to one of us, drop into one of our peer counselors, and just kind of dip in and get your feet wet, because we all need support, and we all do. So I'd encourage you to take advantage of the support here.
Well, that wraps up our episode for Note to Self. Again, we're on YouTube, on Spotify. Really hope that y'all learned something. Hopefully this even like ignites something. You're like, hey, you know what? Let me go talk to a therapist about, personal, physical, emotional, mental boundaries. And again, please take care of yourselves. Use your resources here at Aloni, outside resources as well with your navigators or your own research. Your personal well-being really does matter to us. And we hope y'all have an amazing semester. Yeah. All right. Bye. And then thank you to Erin again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.